I'm Stephen Foskett, publisher of Gestalt IT, and we are taking a look today at the enterprise IT market and how the cloud has impacted it. Specifically, the news came out this week that IT brand Pulse has decided that Amazon AWS is now the world's largest provider of enterprise storage, vaulting past Dell Technologies, the perennial leader in that spot. Number 3 is kind of surprising too. That's Microsoft Azure, not NetApp. So what does this mean? Is Amazon AWS the largest enterprise storage provider? Is Microsoft number 3? Or maybe the market is much different than anyone suspected. IT Brand Pulse recently dropped a report about the worldwide enterprise storage systems market. And this latest one includes an interesting element added. They took the entire market size of Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure, now that those units are reported for public consumers, public consumption. They took those numbers and they applied a straight 20% or 15% multiplier to them to determine the size of the enterprise storage revenue for Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure. The result is that AWS is far and away the number 1 provider of enterprise storage solutions, vaulting way past Dell Technologies. Dell has long been the market leader in enterprise storage ever since their acquisition of EMC, and this has given them about 30% of the total market for a long time. According to this latest number, though, the actual dollar revenues of Amazon AWS are well past Dell. In fact, they exceeded it by about 20% in the last quarter of 2020. This seems credible to people since, after all, we know the size of the total revenue from Amazon AWS, and we know that that total revenue number is actually quite a lot larger than the entire enterprise storage market. So can we say that Amazon AWS is the world's largest enterprise storage provider? I guess we kind of have to. Whether it's 20% or 15% of their revenues, Amazon is obviously making a ton of money off of enterprise storage, and that ton of money is probably past Dell Technologies. Similarly, Microsoft's numbers, whether we apply a 15% or a 20% multiplier, easily push them past NetApp in the number 2 or number 3 spot, moving NetApp down to number 4, and then we've got Huawei, Hitachi, and IBM, and the rest of the enterprise storage market behind them. So this is kind of a no-brainer, right? We all knew that cloud service providers were being popularized for enterprise customers, and it was only a matter of time before enterprise adoption of cloud storage surpassed on-premises adoption of any individual vendor. But maybe that's not the whole story. To me, the interesting aspect of this report is not the fact that Microsoft Azure and Amazon AWS have vaulted themselves into the number 1 and number 3 positions. It's that we actually apparently didn't know the size of the enterprise storage market. You see, this same report lists the traditional enterprise storage market number, and Dell is still listed at 28.9% of that market. But that's 28.9% not including Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, Alibaba, Google, all the other providers. Clearly, the total size of the enterprise storage market is underrepresented in these numbers. Obviously, Amazon is gaining market share. Obviously, the incumbent providers of on-premises storage are losing market share. But obviously, the size of that total pie is much bigger than we ever thought it was. And this leads to an interesting question. Could it be that the pie is expanding just as these market forces are bringing more and more public cloud into the market? Could it be that Amazon taking the number 1 position and earning more than Dell EMC products, could it be that that's actually not quite as bad for Dell as people are saying? Frankly, Dell's numbers did drop a little bit in the overall, the overall revenue dropped during the pandemic, but not by a huge amount, just by a little bit. Same for the other storage providers, apart from Huawei, I might note. And frankly, that's kind of what we're seeing in the overall market for enterprise on-premises infrastructure products. So perhaps the real story here is that the cloud is offering an entirely new market for a new class of applications, and Amazon deserves a pat on the back for delivering a solution that meets those needs. But it's not all doom and gloom. It's not like the cloud is going to wipe away the enterprise storage market tomorrow. At least that's my perspective on it. So I suspect that in the long term, what we're going to find is that Dell and NetApp and Huawei and Hitachi and IBM and all the rest of them still have a viable market for quite a long ways to come, even as Microsoft and Amazon and the rest start expanding their sales in the enterprise storage category. And furthermore, I suspect that there's enough roadway there and runway there for them to build up their presence in the cloud market to not be totally steamrollered by these massive cloud storage and enterprise cloud providers like Amazon. Do you think I'm off base? Do you think that Dell and NetApp and the rest are going to be knocked to the side of the road by the cloud juggernaut? Or do you think that I'm right, that this is not all doom and gloom for those providers, and that there's a very good chance that they'll be able to react, at least in some form or another, and retain some semblance of the current enterprise storage market? I'd love to hear from you. Please leave us a comment in the comment section, and please join us every week for the Gestalt IT Rundown, where we discuss the tech news of the week. Thanks a lot for listening.